this is Jacquie Capstick, and I am your host of the Natural Healing Reel. Today, I have an incredible guest from my province of British Columbia, Canada. Her name is Shane Moore. And Shane has been on a journey of healing, as most of us that are tuning in here are interested in. And she was doing massage therapy and came across something that changed her life in moments after starting to have the experience of it. It's called myofascial release. And I am going to let Shane express her whole, well, we'll start with your bio, just a little background, and then we'll let you share your journey with us.
Okay, well, as you said, my name is Shane Moore. I'm not actually from BC. I'm from Ontario, but I'm in BC right now. And yeah, I was a massage therapist. Sorry, I went back to school for massage therapy. Kind of, I don't like the term midlife, but in my mid 30s, I went back to school because I was working for the government. I was in corrections, and I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. It was just, it wasn't serving me. I wasn't feeling good there anymore. So I'm like, I need a change. So I found a massage therapy program that was kind of accelerated at a private college in town, and I was able to work and go to school at the same time. So I did that. And then my first year in practice, I was still working for the government at that point, but my first year practicing, I took my first myofascial release seminar with John Barnes, and it was literally a light switch moment for me. It was, it was just like, this is what I need to be doing, because this is going to get unbelievable results for myself and my clients, and it has ever since. And I just basically from that weekend on, I stopped doing massage for people, and I just started doing myofascial release. And I took as many seminars of John's as I could, and and it just took over, and people were just getting amazing results when they hadn't been really shifting anything prior to that for very long.
Wow. Okay, so let's get into it. What is myofascial release exactly?
Well, that is always an interesting question. And myofascial release, it's difficult to explain sometimes, but it's a very gentle form of body work, but at times can feel not so gentle. So I don't have to try hard when I do the techniques, right? The harder I try, the less effective they're going to be. So the easier, the more gentle I am with techniques generally, the better results people are going to get. So we just feel for the restriction and the hardness in the soft tissue of the body. And we just stay with the technique, whatever it might be. If I might just be sinking my hands into you, I might be, doing some rebounding or some, and your body will just start to move and release as you soften into it and let yourself feel what's going on. And that's a big part of why we feel pain, why we have movement problems, is that we start to disconnect from our bodies. And MFR really just helps you, at least this type of MFR really just helps you reconnect to your body. And there are several different schools of myofascial release because people can Google myofascial release and you'll get a bunch of different practitioners and mindsets about it, really. And a lot of people feel like it's a very aggressive type of modality, and it is in a lot of schools. It is very aggressive. And when I learned it in massage school, it was more aggressive than not. And I just thought, I'm never going to use this, right? When we learned MFR in school, I'm like, I didn't like it. It didn't feel good for me. And I'm like, I'm never going to use this. And now it's all I do, because I went and I learned how to do it properly. So yeah, I don't know if that really answers your question as to what myofascial release is, or gives you a better idea of it. But yeah,
so
that's
I'm not sure why I'm on the bottom of the screen here and I keep popping in and out. Do you see that?
Yeah, I see another photo come and pop in and out, but I still see you.
That was my first selfie I ever did at 2:00 in the morning when I had to learn how to.
Nice, it's a good one.
Open up different sites. Anyways, I'm not sure why it's there, but excuse me.
No worries.
Okay, so what is the fascia exactly? Like, where is the fascia on the body?
The
And how,
fascia is, and how, sorry?
yeah, like where is the fascia on the body and how does it, how, like, what is it exactly and how is it that you work it? Like,
Okay. So fascia is connective tissue. That's all it is, basically. But it's literally everywhere in the body. And it really allows every other system in the body to work the way it needs to work. So it supports the function of every cell in the body, which is why it's such an important tissue to be aware of what it does, because it holds the water, the fluid, the plasma, all of that. The extracellular fluid is contained in the fascial system. And so when you have inflammation from injury and trauma and illness and all that sort of thing, stress, emotional stuff, that fluid starts to solidify and you get fascial restriction. Things start to stick together, the soft tissue starts to feel hard, and you feel pain, right? You'll get illness, like cells can't function properly, so they will adapt to their environment and, and change however they need to change in order to still live, right? Because that's the body's designed to heal itself and live and adapt and do what it needs to do. And so if you get cell mutations because it can't properly, dispose of the wastes and all that sort of thing, then that's going to lead to cancer and all the kind of diseases that we get diagnosed with. And so it's my belief, and that of many other therapists who have been trained in this modality, is that the fascial system really is, the key to disease and healing disease and illness and pain. Because when you apply the myofascial release techniques, it allows that hardened, that solidified fluid to turn back into a fluid again. So it's basically going from a gel to a solid, like ice. It's not really ice, obviously, because our body's not freezing temperature, but it's more like cement, right? So it goes from a gel to a cement back to a gel again, and then it can, the cells can function properly, and pain goes away, and like it's not squeezing everything. So it's like when you have fascial restriction, it's like your body is shrink wrapped, right? It's just everything's pulled right in, and so myofascial release will soften everything, create space in your body, and just allow it to move fluidly again.
wow.
Yeah. So, not much.
So it's, and okay. And so I was sharing earlier with you that I have a daughter and I've been through many, many, many therapies.
Yeah.
Under the house of cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
And I just got a little touch of this myofascia through physio.
Okay.
Why do we not know more about myofascial release? Like it's, I came across it just because of probably the severity of what I was dealing with.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I feel like a big problem right now in the health and wellness industry is that, yes, myofascial release is becoming more well known, especially in sports and fitness. Like it's more of a buzzword there, but it's not well known right now. It's not well enough known right now. And I mean, the guy that I learned this from is teaching thousands of therapists, every year, tens of thousands every year, really, because his seminars are booked out for years in advance. So it's not unknown, but it's not commonly known. And that's part of my mission with my business, is to get that information out there and to get people to understand what's going on with their body and how easy it is for them to really help themselves heal, because these techniques don't need to be applied by a therapist. It's not that difficult to teach people how to do some self-healing techniques and really start to change what's going on in their body. So the reason, the big reason I feel like is that people don't know about it because doctors don't know about it, right? They don't study the fascial system in medical school. I talked to my cousin, a few years ago, she graduated from medical school, and she's like, we spent 5 minutes talking about fascia, because fascia is the thing they scrape away when they study cadavers and gross anatomy on cadavers, because they want to look at the muscles and the tendons and the bones and the organs. They scrape all the fascia, or as much of the fascia, away as they can, because it gets brittle and hard, right? And so it just gets scraped off so they can see everything that's underneath. Fascia is a living tissue. It only looks and works the way it works when it has water in it. And so in a dead person, there's no water in the body, right? Like all the water is out of the body. So it's just like dried beef jerky, for lack of a better term. I like to make that comparison for people though, because it really resonates. But yeah, it's because there's no water in it that it just, you can't tell what it does, right? So you have to study it in a living person. And there was a doctor, a French doctor, who did that. He basically inserted a camera, microscopic camera, into a patient's forearm just to see, because he was a hand surgeon, and he just wanted to see how the tendons moved through the connective tissue sheaths and all that sort of thing. And he was the one that really started to see fascia the way it needs to be seen. And so in order for the medical community to acknowledge this and to really embrace it, they would have to change the way they teach everything. And they're not ready to do that yet, I don't think, right? So, because that's huge, like that's a significant change. Like all the textbooks, everything would need to change. So this is why it's not as well known as it should be. And that's part of the mission that I'm on, is to change that. So there's the long answer to your short question.
No, it's a great answer. It's a great answer. When you were saying that, I was listening to Greg Braden's
Yes.
Human by Design the other night, and talking about, our telomeres and how, telomeres are at the end, but in humans, it's in the middle. And that anyways, right, it just resonated with what you were just saying there, because he was saying his doctor friends, they'll have this conversation about what we know now. And his longtime doctor friends are unwilling to teach it or share it because all of their notes to date are
wrong.
Are not
wrong
about that.
Yeah.
But why can't they look at it as, okay, well, this is what we knew up until now. Why can't
that would be nice?
All about that perception, right? Now we know all of this other stuff. We know that the heart has a brain. We know the gut has a brain. Like all of those incredible things. And and I was listening to him say exactly that, right? That his doctor friends won't talk to him for a couple of days after the conversation because and then they made kind of the new ones can change it. They can come in and tell that, but we're going to wait till we're done our tender type thing.
Wow.
And how sad is that?
Yeah. I mean, obviously we are all
like, can't you just expand?
We're all entitled to our opinion and to see things the way we want to, but it's, it doesn't help. And that it's unfortunate, but I truly believe that the people who need this work and are looking for it will find it, right? And it will become more and more visible as the years go on, because it already is. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands now of therapists trained in this modality. And they want to get the word out. So it's just a matter of time before it really starts to take over. That's going to be super exciting.
That is super exciting. Like I'm excited about it. So you're saying that somebody doesn't need to go to a therapist to learn this. So how would somebody like me? So, okay, I want to learn it. So what do? I can go to your, do you have a site where you teach this?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. No, I've recently in the last year or so created a couple of online programs now. One is called Feel Better Now, which is a total do-it-yourself. And it's basically a self-healing program that's a combination of the best self-healing techniques, because there's a lot, excuse me, outside of myofascial release, there's a lot of different things that are really useful, like sound healing, voice vibration sound healing is really significant. Yoga is great. Different yoga postures is great. Just basic breath work is key, right? If you're not breathing properly, nothing is going to work well because the body needs oxygen. So So what I discovered through my trial and error, and I was, have been an amateur athlete my whole life. So, I've got aches and pains and I, like that sort of thing. I've never broken anything, thankfully, but I've was a CrossFitter for 8 years and did lots of heavy weightlifting, and just my body just got really tight and uncomfortable. And that was before I started doing this work and really found this work. So once I found it, I could really feel the difference between, what I was doing, like what was happening to my body when I was lifting heavy and training 5 days a week and just really intense, as opposed to just kind of chilling out and relaxing and training a little bit less hard and recovering a lot more, spending more time on recovery. So I created the Feel Better Now program because it was really what I needed to really start to feel and move better, and have no pain after I trained, and that sort of thing, and still be able to play the sports that I wanted to play, and or just be active, as I get older. And that's one of the problems, is that as we get older, we feel like that's going away, right? Like our ability to be active and be pain-free and be really healthy is harder. And I disagree with that completely, right? Like I think we can be as healthy and active as we want, and pain-free and drug-free our whole lives. We're designed that way. Our bodies are designed to heal themselves. And so these techniques will help the body to do that. Basically, it helps deal with stress, it helps deal with emotional issues, and it helps deal with the physical stuff that's just been, piling up in our body since the day we were born, basically, because we never learned how to really deal with it. So that's Feel Better Now.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
we all can, right? Like
yeah.
we really can, because there's not too many people that get past the age of 35, 40 when things don't start to break down, right? And or fall apart is our mindset. And that's just, it doesn't need to happen. And there are ways, even if it started happening, there are ways to reverse that and to get it back. But you got to do the work. You got to put the time in, you got to do the techniques. You don't have to spend hours on it. You could do 10, 15, 20 minutes a day even, and see a change, but you have to use it. It's like anything else. You can't get fit if you're not working out. You can't get healthy if you're eating garbage all the time. It's like you need to shower every day. You need to eat. You need to do this self-healing work on a like daily, if not daily, then every other day, and just make it part of your routine. And I also have another program that teaches you to treat your loved ones, because this is a big thing, because a lot of people can't come and see a therapist, and we recognize that, right? I mean, we can only see so many people at a time anyway before we're overworked, but my goal with that was just to teach people some really easy basic techniques that are super effective for helping with pain and movement, just in kids, in seniors. You can use it for everybody really, but it's super gentle, and as long as you do it gently, you will not injure anybody or harm anybody. So those are two completely online programs, just all video courses, and I walk you through everything. So that's on my website.
Good
Sorry?
for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's awesome. I love it.
There's a need for it there, and there's a lack of it, right? I haven't seen it anywhere else. So I just need to get it out there a little bit more, and that's what I'm doing now.
I have dozens and dozens of people that I know right now that are going to be so happy for this information.
Awesome.
Like,
Awesome.
goodness, like, well, myself, for my daughter, and
Yeah.
for myself.
Yeah.
And so what about people that are really like inflexible? Does it help with that at all?
Yes.
My poor husband, he's the hips are so tight, and the hockey and all that. Anyways, I think
Yes.
a lot of guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, guys in general, I think, and I mean, you can't generalize about anybody,
Right.
but if I'm going to generalize, then yes, because traditionally men are meant to just carry the load, right? And it's not about expressing your emotions or anything, and their whole body's just tighten up. And right. And that's really what all this tension and what all this stress and all this inflammation and injury is coming from, is there's a major emotional component that's not being addressed by most people, right? Or therapists, or really understood how the emotional stuff that we don't let ourselves express really how it affects our physical body, because it does. And that's what causes inflammation in the body too. That's what stress is, right? Stress is just the emotional response, and not finding a really good way to release that from your body, not really knowing, because a lot of people use exercise as a stress release, right? Which is fine, but a lot of people over exercise because that's just, their go-to is, I got to go to the gym or whatever. But nobody's recovering, because exercise is still stress on the body, right? You're still breaking things down, and that's the point. But if you're not spending the time doing the recovery stuff, which is these techniques from my program, the breath work, the mobility stuff, the gentle, just the easy stuff, then your body's not going to recover as much as you want it to, or as quickly as you want it to. And so if you do more recovery stuff and less training, your body will actually be in better shape in the long run, I believe. So
I believe that you're 100% right. Through my training, I know.
Yeah,
just
mine too. And that's based on my experience.
Yeah. And I'm just embarking on healing myself through, an extreme pileup of trauma. And the breath work, like a lot of times I catch myself, I'm not breathing.
Yeah, that happens for all of us though. And we're not even aware of it. Yeah.
No.
Exactly.
And would not have been had I not even, without the awareness, without having somebody say, oh, okay, well, breathing. Okay, well, the breathing, what's that? Right. But I've been really into, the Joe Dispenza work, and he introduced.
He's good. Yeah.
Oh, I love. Yeah. He's like,
Bruce Lipton is great too.
The Three Amigos. I have to tell you, I had a week-long advanced seminar booked in past June. In Maui.
Nice.
My husband and I were going to. That got canceled because of COVID. And another, we did an advanced with Joe Dispenza in Vancouver. He was here a couple of years ago. And anyways, this breath work and breathing into the heart, and this heart math, and the brain heart coherence, and the healing, it is incredible.
It's huge. Yeah.
It's huge. It's just so huge. And it's not hard. And
no.
But
and that's the thing, is that it isn't hard. It's none of this is hard to do. It's just we have forgotten about it. Because we know this stuff innately, right? And we have just been taught not to trust it, not to believe it, and to give our power to other people. The doctors know better. You need medication, all this kind of stuff. And it's not really our fault, because we've been bombarded with these messages, and our parents were as well. And so it's just, and that gets handed down, right? Like that's the epigenetic stuff that affects generations and generations, is that energy from whatever traumas and stuff our ancestors went through. We are inheriting that stuff too, whether we realize it or not. And so that's also what MFR will do. And even if you don't believe this stuff, right, you don't need to believe it for MFR to work for you. But if you want to get into that, like that, you can just go down a huge rabbit hole and just follow all of this stuff and really understand and release a lot of trauma that we've been carrying around for generations, right? And it only takes one person in that line to really start to shift it. And MFR is a significant part of that. Yes.
That has been my journey, is that because I understand that I can heal 6 generations back by stopping the loop, the patterns of generational.
Exactly. Just start doing it differently. That's all you got to do.
But you have to be aware. You have to have the knowledge. You have the knowledge is power, right? And then you have to do something with that knowledge, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Right. So I had the knowledge for many years of a lot of stuff, but I didn't know how to. I wasn't implementing it. Like I wasn't it, but I wasn't able to I wasn't feeling that I was living it per se, because you're going in and out and up and down. And I think that's part of it anyway.
Well, because you have life, you have other stuff going on in your life, right? And this is something that I've really figured out in my path, because I mean, for the last 10 years, I was on my own, right? So I was going through this process, this this introduction to myofascial release and just learning about all of this stuff and getting a deeper spiritual connection, which wasn't really present for most of my life prior to that. But I was on my own. And so I didn't have to focus on kids or a spouse or anything.
Lucky.
I could just, yeah. And so it was all about me, and I could just do the work for me. And that's not the case for a lot of people, right? Like, I mean, everybody's got it, not everybody, but lots of people have jobs and kids and partners and, you know, businesses and stuff like that. And so there's just, it's hard to take the time, and it really is most effective if you can take the time for you and focus on you in significant chunks, right? And that's part of why I work the way that I work, because I work intensively when I do MFR. When I was a massage therapist and just learning this work, I worked hourly, right? So I would see a client for an hour once every couple of weeks or once a month or whatever, right? And that's fine, but you're not really going to change anything in that space of time. So now I do intensives, which are 3 hours a day for 10 days in a row. So you're getting 30 hours of treatment in 10 days. And that's going to start to change a whole bunch of stuff in your body and help you release a bunch of things and just really start to shift that energy and just let, you know, so that you can really reconnect to what's going on. Because a lot of people don't even realize how disconnected they are from certain parts of their body, really deep, especially in your abdomen. Like, that's key for everybody that I've met and treated so far, and everybody else who I haven't treated, because that's where we hold our stress and our fear and our anxiety, right? That's where it starts.
And that's where
and then it affects everything else. Yeah. And so when people have, you know, digestive issues and elimination issues and reproductive issues and, you know, breathing and all of that sort of thing, that's because we have this stress and tension in our gut, in our abdomen. And so once you start to release that, all of those things just start to shift and start to work better, right? And those problems can start to go away, but it can take some time, right? It doesn't have to take years. Depends on how much you want to focus on it, right? How much work you want to do on it. So it's about finding that balance and then maintaining the balance after you've gotten, you know, the knowledge and the techniques to do so. Then you can maintain yourself, really.
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you there, but that second energy center there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's where my belly, if I'm putting weight on, it's right there. And that's where I carry all of the unhealed stuff.
Well, there's energy centers all over the body, right? I mean, if you're just looking at the primary 7 chakras, then yes, people can have stuff in their throat, they can have stuff in their head, they can have stuff in their solar plexus, which is self-esteem issues and all that sort of thing. You know, if you're going to go lower, like into your sacral or your root, I mean, lots of people have money issues, which is root, support issues, root chakra, sacral chakra is creativity and all that sort of thing. So it's, you know, like, we have a lot going on, and we're not addressing it the way it needs to be in order for it to really shift quickly. And it can actually shift quite quickly if you are aware of it and you're willing to let go. And those are really it sounds so easy, right? And it's not. I mean, it can be easy. I don't like to say that it's not, because it can be as easy as you want it to be, right? And that's a mindset, that's law of attraction, that's, you know, all of that sort of thing. It's allow it to be easy, but we've been trained to make it hard, to think that it has to be hard to be worthwhile, right? Nothing good ever comes easily is something that we get told a lot. And I have had to do a lot of work for myself to shift that mindset, and it's still in me residually in places at times. Like, I can't maintain that level of belief for, you know, days and hours on end. But yes, it's something that you have to shift that first. Your belief system, your mindset, you have to be willing to question those things and look at things in a different way in order for anything else to change in your life too. So that is part of the work, right? That's part of making MFR really effective, is changing those belief patterns that we have that got us into this situation in the first place. So yeah.
I've been on that
lots
journey.
to deal with.
Yeah. I've been on that journey, and I think that that just checking in and listening, that was quite a rude awakening for me. You know what, like, you know what, You understand how many thoughts are rolling through there every day, right?
Yeah.
And I love Michael Singer, and he explains, right, how to, if you're listening to the thoughts, if you can hear the thoughts, then you're not the thoughts, which is such a great way to be able to, if you're the listener, then there's two, right? Because everybody, it's hard to explain that to people that because
it can
we're
be
so 3D, right? We're so
yes, a lot of people are just in that three-dimensional time, space, and all of that. But if you can let yourself go beyond that, it's just like everything is possible, right? Literally everything is possible. So not a lot of people, and it's okay that not everybody is there, right? Like, it's just everybody gets to it in their own pace, or not at all, and that's fine. Like, that's their journey. And but it doesn't mean you can't shift something, right? Like, certain things can't change. And what I find a lot too is that mindsets can also change once you start dealing with the body, right? And that's why myofascial release is so great, especially with trauma and stuff, for people who can't talk about it or don't want to talk about it or whatever. You don't have to. Like, I'm going to find what's going on in your body. Like, I will find your emotional stuff, your mental stuff. I will find the effects of that in your body. And we can, once we start to release that, you'll be able to start talking about it if you want to, and it will just be easier to express about it and get rid of it. And so that's why a lot of people who do just talk therapy don't make the strides or the progress that they want to. And why, some people are seeing psychiatrists for years and years, is that they're just talking and talking and talking about the problems. They're not actually changing the physical stuff that's going on for them, that's connected to those problems too. And so you have to do all of it. You can't just do one or the other. It's, if you can do all of it, you're going to get the best results possible. So that's why a lot of people are struggling still too. So
well, and that's like, everybody's kind of got the formula, right? There's a formula to, right? And people don't understand that. Like, if you're just not, if you don't know, you're like, okay, well, I've done that. I've done that. I'm doing that work, and frustrated because nobody shared with them that, okay, well, when you do this, then you do this, and then you're going to receive that, and then this will happen.
They don't always know that. Like, the people they're seeing don't always know that either, right? And a lot of therapists are very attached to their modality, which is natural, right? Like, you're very biased towards what you do. But I mean, you have to recognize, as a therapist myself, doing anything, is that MFR is not the be all end all. It's not the only thing that's going to help you get you where you want to be. It's a big component for sure, but there are lots of other things that come into this mix that are going to be really helpful. And so my best advice to people is to find a therapist, who encompasses all of that, or a few therapists who are willing to talk to each other or communicate and support each other, or support their client in seeing each other, because a lot of people want to be the only one right now, right? Like, you can see me and do this, but don't do anything else right now, is what a lot of people hear. And that, to me, is kind of very limiting, right? And it's egocentric, right? Like, it's really, I don't understand why, because it's not like you're going to make something worse if you see somebody for something else, right? Like, you're only seeing people to augment what's happening and to really enhance your healing. And so, seeing different therapists, even for MFR, like, if people are wanting body work, I encourage my clients to get treated by other people, because we all have our own experience, right? We've all got our own energy and our own view of things, and we will all approach something in a bit of a different way, and you'll feel great regardless. And yes, there are people that you will resonate with more, and absolutely, they can be your primary therapist, but it is super helpful to see other people and just get different perspectives and have different experiences on your healing journey. So if people are feeling stuck, that's something that I suggest as well, is to just check other people out, because you can hit a plateau with a therapist, right? They can only take you as far as their own experience. And if they aren't even doing their own work, because a lot of therapists aren't getting treated themselves, I feel like that's a super important thing for therapists to do. And I self-treat a lot. I do see other therapists to get treated. And so, if your therapist is not doing that, then they're going to be limiting themselves in how much they can help you. So
Interesting.
yeah.
That's a really great analogy, actually. Right?
Yeah.
They can only take you as far as where they are,
Yeah.
which makes sense, right? But
Yeah.
Show me something quick, like can you show me something like on an arm, like how, like what would one exercise be that somebody could like, just so could you show me something that or not really?
Well, it's kind of hard where I'm at, but let me think. There's a
Like say you had a bicep, like is there something on your arm, like is it like where you're pulling against something, like to release the fascia, like what actually happens, like how do you
know what, it's actually really hard to show it, because there's very little activity happening, right?
Okay.
It's if I'm treating somebody, if I'm doing structural myofascial release on somebody, so I've got my hands on them and I'm sinking into the tissue, I'm basically just standing there for as long as it takes for their body to let go. And so it looks to everybody else watching like I'm doing nothing. The person I'm treating is feeling a whole lot of stuff, right? But to everybody else, it looks like I'm just standing there with my hands resting on somebody. Now, when they start to move and release, like your body wants to heal itself, right? And so it will start to unwind. This is a term that is used by not just this type of MFR, but other modalities use the term unwinding as well. And it just means that your body is going to start moving in ways that's going to release it and into positions that are going to heal it. And so it will do that without you having to think about it, which is hard to explain. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around unless you have the experience. And I was explaining this to a client one day as I was treating her, and I was working on her neck and her head's just rolling back and forth like this, and my hands are under her head. So she thinks that I'm moving her head. And I said, no, your head's actually moving by itself and I'm just holding it. And she's like, I don't believe you. I'm like, okay. So I took my hands away and her head kept going like this. She's like, oh my God, this is great. Right. And so it can look really crazy. Like some treatments can look really crazy. Some can look like nothing's happening at all or anywhere in between. And that's why it's so hard to explain to people what the work is, what it does. It's just something you have to experience if you really want to know. And and you have to experience it for more than an hour or two at a time. It's like I do, sometimes I will do like a 15-hour mini intensive. It's a half intensive. And so that's 5 days of work, 3 hours a day. I've done a few times, I will do like a 9-hour, like a 3-day weekend kind of thing, and do 3 hours for 3 days. And just so people can kind of get an idea of what the work's about, and and decide and usually they decide that they want more after that, because it's just really starting to scratch the surface, right? Like, because that's not enough time to really let you
well,
feel
I'm
into
coming to that, and I'm going to be bringing my family.
Awesome.
So let me know. You're close enough
Absolutely.
to come to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That sounds
Yeah.
amazing. It's exciting. Really.
Yeah, it is.
It really is.
It's exciting to see what can change for people. Like really, people that have lived with certain health conditions, their whole lives, and they start to do MFR and these conditions start to change and go away. And they're like, why didn't I know about this sooner? And it's like, well, not enough people knew about it sooner for you to know about it, right? But you come to it when you're meant to, right? We all find it when we need to and when we're ready. So
they say
let go of that other stuff.
Yeah, when we're ready, the teacher appears.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So thank you for appearing.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
I'm ready.
Thank you for reaching out.
Right, because of course, then we always think that everybody else around us is in need, right? Where it's that mirror image it's yours, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I know I got lots in there, even though I have, growing up, lots of dance, right? And then working out, whatever. So I've been able to maintain flexibility. So
right.
looks probably like I would not have much, but I'm sure I've got a ton of it in there.
Absolutely. And that is a misconception as well, is that people think that if they're flexible, they don't have fascial problems, but that is not true, because dancers and gymnasts and everybody, they, like your athletes, you have injuries, you have fascial restriction, you know, your body can always move better, easier, lighter, you know, whatever you need. There's always room for improvement. Even if you're at the top of your game as an athlete, pro athletes or professional performers, you know, there's still room for improvement for them. So we all need it. You know, we're all dealing with stuff that affects what's going on in our bodies. So we all need to know how to get rid of it or manage it in a better way, more effective way.
And so how long have you been in, how long ago did you find this?
I've been doing this for about 10 years now. So
wow.
yeah. And I can see myself doing it for the rest of my career, you know, like when I found it, it's like, yes, up to that point, I could not see myself doing anything for very long. And I hadn't, like most careers and jobs I'd stayed with for 5-6 years, and then I needed a change. And then I found this and I'm like, okay, this I can do till I, you know, die. Basically, I don't even want to retire from this, because it's so much fun to work with people and see what can shift for them and change, because, you know, it's amazing when you can help somebody change their life, right?
100%.
Why would you want to stop that?
Right, because that's the gift, right?
Yeah.
That gift
Well, it's why we're here. It's why I'm here. I know that it's to serve. It's to help other people just feel better and live better.
It's probably why you got that time by on your own, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
To really understand it so that they can serve.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because yeah, I believe that everything is kind of happening as it's supposed to.
Absolutely.
You know, really don't like to think so sometimes.
No, and we create all our own stuff, right? Like we are responsible for everything that happens in our lives and all their choices and everything that's going on. So if you can't take that responsibility, then you're going to have illness, you're going to have disease, you're going to have physical problems if you're resisting that. As soon as you embrace that, all that stuff starts to shift and go away. So you can always make a different choice, always.
That's another tough one though, because we tend to go to guilt. Well, that's right.
Yeah.
I did, right? Because, you know,
but guilt is a wasted emotion. Guilt is wasted energy. Seriously,
But as a mother, let me tell you, I was very, very good at it. Any mother.
I hear that, and that is the ancestral trauma that gets passed down, and moms thinking they have to do everything and put everybody before them and all. You know, when a mom finally starts to put herself first, her kids see that and they put themselves first. Otherwise, they're learning the same broken pattern, right? The same pattern that doesn't work and that gets them stressed out and, you know, burnt out and feeling frustrated as a parent, as a mother, and whatever. Like, you know, I don't believe that women were meant to be that necessarily, and that we can evolve to be a different, you know, type of mother. You're meant to parent kids so that they can be independent as soon as possible, right? They need to be able to take care of themselves. And if you're a mom that does everything for your kids, then you're killing yourself doing that, and you're not really helping your kids. But, you know, tangents. We're getting off on tangents.
Yourself and them.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. 100% agree with that. Yeah. And I know that you know, going through whatever, you know, and catching the loops and breaking down the trauma and stuff. I'm saying out loud to my kids, Kate, this is how I grew up. This is what I'm trying to break down. Don't do this. You know, if I have and the body goes dramatic, like right into, you know, and then I'm like, you know, and then I'm catching myself. It's like our body it's just in this pattern and it's taking off, and then the mind's catching up with it now because I'm not making the choices. I'm just in reaction of what the Bruce Lipton work, whatever I saw growing up. And then I'll say out loud, okay, this isn't good. Don't do this. I'm trying to break this because this is this is what I'm working on, right?
Yes,
Because
yes.
this isn't healthy for me. This isn't healthy. Like I'm saying it out loud as I'm dysfunctional,
Yeah.
just like doing the dysfunction, right? Because I want them to know, and I do apologize,
Well,
if I,
it's good to recognize it yourself, because you're naming the problem, you're stating it out, and it's, but the thing is that, telling kids or anybody not to do something that you're doing is just
that they do it.
total like they're obviously just going to go off and do that next, right? Like that is a guaranteed way to get them to do whatever it is you don't want them to do.
Okay, we have a
So
3.5-year-old, so you know what? I
yeah,
hear you.
yeah. And so yes, the behavior that we are modeling for any kids, whether you're a parent or a teacher or somebody that just is in front of kids, like they're always watching what you're doing, always, right? And they are tuned into your energy like you have no idea. I mean, some people have ideas about how tuned in kids are, but a lot of people have no clue how tuned in kids are to your energy. So, I mean, that's why divorce situations are so hard on kids. Even if you don't fight in front of them, they still know what's going on energetically. They still have a feeling. They might not intellectually understand it, right? They don't have the vocabulary for it a lot of times, but physically they will feel that energy, right? And that will affect them
Yeah.
on various levels. And so don't kid yourself about that.
Oh,
Be
I don't,
aware of it.
yeah.
And
I
not you
actually let
specifically,
them
but
this is
people in
what I'm
that
doing.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying
So it's,
So trying to break this down, catching myself, saying
yeah.
this is the catch, right? Stopping myself, re-choosing, like just
Yes.
verbalizing it out loud. So because
Good.
I know that they're watching me. I
Yeah.
see what I'm doing my mother.
Yeah.
And that I'm trying to break that down, but that's
Yeah.
generational, right?
Absolutely
And
it is.
I pull something when I choose something and I don't go in the loop, I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, got that one for us.
Good. Good. And
So
celebrate it. Yes,
I do
absolutely.
because it's
Good.
big. It's
It
big.
is. It's, I mean, we feel, it might look small, but you're right. It is completely, it's so big and it's so key. It can be so key for kids just to make that shift at 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and understand a better way to do things rather than wait till they're 35 and 40 to, which is where the midlife crisis comes in, and we start to realize that the things we thought we knew aren't really true. And and if we could, if we just didn't have to deal with that stuff as kids, how different would your life be? All right. How different would your experience be? So, I mean, and it's not just to throw all this heaping responsibility onto to parents or people who are dealing with kids, but because you can only do what you can do. We're human, right? Nobody's perfect. This is a process. You're never done doing this work. Like it's always something to be worked on ourselves, right? Like, and how we interact with people and how we interact with ourselves. It's a constant process, and we aren't done. We're never done. So, don't, a lot of people just feel so like they're never going to get it finished, or they're just, so what's the point in starting if it's going to take forever? Or if it's like that mindset needs to change. And so it's just realizing that this is a process and I'm exactly where I need to be. And I'm always just being better every day, even if it's 1% better, then that's still improvement. So being easy with yourself through the process is super important too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember somebody close to me saying to me, yeah, well, I've done the work. Right. And I thought, oh goodness, you're right at the bottom of the barrel there. Because,
Yeah.
if you've done the
I've
work,
done it. It didn't really work for me. So I'm doing something, it's,
like,
yeah,
okay,
it's,
so you need to get started then.
yeah. So
Yes.
you just scratched the surface and you didn't like what you saw, so you stopped, and that's okay, right?
Yeah,
Like that
but walking
is
around
okay, but
stating
don't
that
say it doesn't
they're
work.
already the
You know,
hierarchy.
you
Sorry,
can't just go, yeah, you can't just say it doesn't work after that. Like you have to keep doing the work for it to work. Otherwise, the work doesn't work.
or we're not growing, right? Because we're
Yeah,
constantly growing and expanding, right? And
yeah,
so if you're already there, then and you're not continuing
yeah.
to bloom, then you're dying, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
100% agree with you.
I just thought, just when you said that, it was just an egotistical thing when I just it just flashed into my head, and I thought, you've already done the work. So that means you're done and you're at the hierarchy,
Yeah.
and everybody else is, you know.
There's nothing left to do. I'm done and that's it. It's
Right.
like, no,
Yeah.
no, that's not how it works.
No, it's a continual process.
Yeah.
Do you do like live online workshops where you're have you done, is that something
I
that
haven't done it yet, but I would like to do it. I do prefer the in-person and interactive stuff more than just recording things and putting it there, which there's a market for it. And yes, it's a great way to get into the work and kind of get familiar with it. But I mean, MFR is about connection, right? It's about actually connecting with people. And so I always prefer the hands-on, the in-person, but yes, I would love to do even online, virtual courses like the ones I've got going. I will do assessments and stuff online as well. I haven't really gone to treating online, which is still possible with MFR, but I still, like I said, the hands-on component is really important for me at this point. So I really like to do that and connect with people that way. So yeah, it's if people want that sort of thing, then just email me and we can set something up, right? Like I'm flexible that way too, right now until business gets crazy busy. And I mean, I won't let it get crazy busy because that's not what I want. But yeah, I would love to do, like a regular online live course and
this is
help
having
people
that vision of,
or do
where you're like
if somebody has
back and
specific
forth
conditions that they want to deal with and and we can't be in the same place, then I can talk you through different treatments and that sort of thing. Like there's no limit to what we can do and accomplish online as well as in person. So yeah, it might not show up as an option on my website, but just connect with me and let's talk about it and see what we can arrange.
I'm just wondering, with the COVID ramping back up, it feels like they're on it, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely, I mean, the online programs were as a result of not being able to really work hands-on with people for over a year. So, we as therapists, I needed to be able to really reach a larger audience. And, in order to create the income that I want and that sort of thing, you have to. I mean, you can't just treat one-to-one for very long because it's just not practical. And they will like any business is like that, right? Like it's one to many is going to be your best bet for securing an income that you can live off of really and do well with. But yeah, so that's why the online courses kind of came up last year for me, and now it's just a matter of getting it out there to people, because there's lots of people that can't even go see a therapist, and whether you can't afford it or there's nobody in your area or whatever your situation is, I wanted to have an option for people that couldn't access a therapist and just were able to get online at least. Then we have that option covered for you. So.
Yeah.
So there's always a way. There's always a way to find the treatment. You just got to get creative and you just got to ask, right? Because if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Yeah. And they say, ask and it's given.
Absolutely. Abraham.
You believe, you receive.
I love Abraham.
What I tell my kids at Christmas, right? They told me they don't believe in Santa anymore. And I said, well, if you don't believe, you don't receive. So there's that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Santa always comes. So thankfully, right?
Yeah.
Oh, tell me about something that's like one of your most important kind of daily virtues. Like what's something that's really passionate for you in your personal life that really helps you to be in balance and in check? Like is there something that you do daily for yourself to kind of share to help others?
Well, yeah, I mean, movement for me is really important. And that doesn't necessarily mean going to the gym and doing exercise. It could be paddling on the lake. It could be just going for a walk. It could just be doing some breathing or some self-treatment techniques. But for me, if I'm not moving, then everything is stagnating. My mindset kind of goes down. Like my energy is just off, and I'm not inspired to create stuff. I'm not inspired to, build my business, that sort of thing. And that's something that I've noticed a lot. Like it became very apparent this last year or year and a half. Is that, there were times when I wasn't doing a lot of movement and I was just kind of laying around and not feeling like doing anything. And then it's like, no, I need to snap out of this. I need to start moving again and go for a walk, or just do some kind of movement, whether it's a few, touch your toes a few times, or do a couple of squats slowly, and just move in a different way, and just test what your body can do without hurting it, without pushing it too hard. You don't have to push yourself very hard. Just, challenge yourself a little bit. But yeah, movement for me is key. And that could just be laying and breathing. That's still movement, right? Your body is still moving when you do that. But yeah, I mean, move in ways that you don't normally move too, because a lot of people always do, the same movements all the time. It's like, well, then you're going to lose the ability to do other movements, right? The range of motion of our shoulders and our hips and our knees and our ankles, all of our joints, it decreases over the years if we don't use it. So that's what I like to encourage people, my clients especially, to challenge those different ranges of motion and do different movements, than what they're used to. So it just keeps things interesting. If walking's your thing, take a different route, go backwards on that route, or just take a different road, because a lot of people do the same routine all the time. So it's just like, shake things up a little bit, because otherwise everything just starts to stagnate and get boring, and you get into a rut. So,
well, it's kind of like having those same thoughts, right?
Yeah.
With that pattern, right? And then we got to
eat the same stuff, you do the same job, you drive the same way to work, you have the same conversations with people. You got to do things different. You got to introduce new things into your life. And that's actually something that I did a few years ago, because I knew I needed a major shakeup in my life. I knew, because I was living in Thunder Bay. I'd been there since college, basically university, 20 years or so. And I knew that the business I wanted to create was not going to happen there for whatever reason. I just, and so I got rid of everything I owned, sold my Jeep, sold my motorcycle, sold my house, like everything, and went to Australia for a couple of months. Literally all my clothes, all my stuff, got rid of it. Yeah. And because I didn't know where I would end up. Right. And I ended up coming back to Canada, and I was there for a year, but then I left again and have been traveling ever since, basically. So I was in Europe during COVID and all that sort of stuff. I was in Australia when everything started to jump off, and then I was back in the UK. And for me in the last few years, travel has been that new thing, right? It's in a new place and learning new stuff, and being in a country that I don't speak the language, and that sort of thing, right? And I'm not saying everybody needs to do that, because obviously that's not going to happen, but just introduce new things into your life, learn a new skill, read a different type of book, it's not that hard, really.
My daughter is doing that. She's living out in Kelowna, and I'm really proud of her. And I really, she's doing that. She took it up mountain biking, and like I said, she was up mountain biking in your backyard there last week. But just, she's doing different things. And then she went traveling and all these things that I didn't do. Right. But what? I remember my older sister going traveling, like to and, selling it. And at that point, I owned a hair salon in downtown Calgary. But I remember thinking to myself, I wouldn't have had the guts to do that then. I would not have.
So do it now.
And oh my gosh, I would be all over that. Like, oh my goodness, I want to travel. Her and I did do Europe, did a Joe Dispenza cruise and went to the Mediterranean. And I had never been to Europe before. And I'll tell you what, I've got the bug so bad. And it's just, it's so difficult right now with what's going on.
Yes, it is.
Because I just want to go.
It's not impossible, but it's
not impossible, but it makes it tough with kids. Like, I've got younger kids. I've got a big spread. Every 9 years I was having another child. And And then we adopted our oldest daughter passed, and we adopted her baby at 3 months.
wow.
Just 3.5
Nice.
now.
Yeah.
And talk about when you say, don't do this. I mean, literally, it's literally she's doing it right that second. And you know that. And
Yeah.
even like the other day, my husband said, I just told her to not do that. I go, I know. And as soon as I tell her, she does it, right? Like that's
Yep.
and it's like,
So tell her to do the opposite of what you know, and then she'll,
right? It's just so silly. And then she kind of
reverse
looks at
psychology.
you like, what?
She'll
Right?
catch on.
Yeah, don't watch that show. Don't take my phone.
But some people just have to learn, like we're on our own paths, right? We have to learn the way we have to learn. And so you can try and teach kids and tell them stuff, but at the end of the day, they're going to have to put their hand on the stove to know that it's hot. They're going to have to, catch their fingers in the door or whatever it is, right? Like that's just part of the learning process for some kids. So,
you know what? It's so true. And they say that, here we think we're here to teach them, but they came in to teach us.
absolutely.
And that's a real fat pill to swallow as well, right?
It sure is. Yeah.
Being accountable for your life. And
because now, as in our kind of 40s, 30s, 40s, we're starting to unlearn all the stuff that we've been taught, from the time we were 7. We need to go back to the time before we were 7 and behave like that again as adults, right? So that's really how we should still be, as opposed to going through this change and ending up back where we started.
right. So that when you end up, start as a baby and end as a baby, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's an analogy in that.
Yeah.
I think, right?
Yes. Yes.
I love it. So what would you tell yourself if you were 80 years old right now? What would your 80-year-old self tell you right at this point in life?
Wow. My 80-year-old self would say, well done. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know what? Isn't that great?
It is.
Right? I mean, if today were your last day, a lot of people wouldn't be able to say, not that 80 is your last day, but
No, but
it's a good way to look at things. If today was my last day, am I happy?
Yeah. And but I'm doing things now that I want to be doing. I'm where I want, like I know I'm where I need to be. I still have tons of stuff I want to do and accomplish, and different things I want to see happen for my business. But a big thing for me is to walk your talk, right? And that's what I'm trying to do with my life, is just live what I talk and live what I teach, and
Be authentic.
and live the life that I want to live, and not kill myself, in a government job because it's a secure pay and I'll have a pension and all that. Like, I don't need that. Like, I don't want to live that way. That's not for me. It doesn't feel good for me. That might feel great for people, and that's fine. That is their path, and that's not a problem. But for me, I just need to wherever you are, whoever you are, be doing what you love, do things that you love to do, and don't put stuff off, like just travel now. If you want to travel and you can make it happen, then just make it happen. And, because eventually someday becomes no day at all. And then you've gone through your life and you haven't really done anything you really wanted to do. So start now, small things at first, and then it just gets easier to get bigger, or go big all at once, whatever feels right for you.
Yeah. They say that your passion, actually, if you can find whatever it is that you're passionate, that's actually your purpose.
Yeah.
Because I think we're here.
And it doesn't.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do, or why I'm here, but it's that little. It's just that little. What are you passionate about?
Exactly.
And that's your purpose.
Yeah. And this is what I'm passionate about. Health, being healthy, living healthy, being able to heal yourself, knowing that you can. We have this power.
My passion is to share this. Share this natural heal. There's so much great natural healing that people don't know about.
Absolutely.
I'm passionate about that. I just like every person I talk to, I learn so much, and they have, and even if it's the same type of work, they say it different.
Yeah,
They
it's a
have a
different
different
perspective.
perspective.
Yeah.
And and if you learn one thing, to me, that can be
It was
everything.
worth it. Yeah,
One
absolutely.
thing could be the one thing that changes everything on a dime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was my experience.
I've been there. I've been there too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And to your 18-year-old self, what would you say?
To my 18-year-old self. You will find what you need to be doing. You're doing exactly what you need to be doing, and everything's going to be okay.
Everything's going to be okay. Just to trust.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to make sure that I get all of your information to put with this video, and everything that you can share with our audience, so that they know how to get a hold of you. They know what your videos are, so that I can list everything that is of any importance with this podcast.
Okay.
Okay. So our audience knows that you know what I mean? Because sometimes, you get the information and they're like, okay, well, so I'm going to just make sure that you give me all that information, and I will post that with this podcast.
Okay.
I am really grateful for your time today.
I'm grateful for your opportunity to
and
share
everything that I've learned. And I'm really grateful that you're close, because I think that I'm going to be meeting you in person. I just feel
awesome.
that, I feel that
I
my
look forward
daughter,
to
who's
it.
a little athlete,
Yeah,
she's real close to you and could really use some work. So
awesome.
Hopefully she can get there quicker than I can, since the Coca Hall is closed. Are you on fire up there at Big White at all?
No, but we're getting smudged pretty good.
Yeah. It's quite a sad time right here in British Columbia, isn't it?
Well, I was talking to my cousin yesterday about this too, and it's interesting because she's also a therapist, and she's the one who turned me on to myofascial release. She'd been doing it longer than I had, and she's very talented. She also does she's a what's the word for it? She does shamanic healing as well, and that's where her path has taken her. Yeah. And so we were talking yesterday about the fires and stuff, and she's like, it's a cleansing, right? It's the province is being smudged essentially. And she's like, it happened right after all of those kids were found, that burial site was found. That's when the fires kicked off. And so I'm like, that's really interesting to kind of look at it that way. And
yeah, okay, my whole body just went,
right?
Wow. So it does that. It's like that,
like everything happens and the fire is a way to rebirth something. Like it's the end of something and beginning of something else. So yes, we can be upset about the fires, but it's part of the process. It's part of the healing, and the getting rid of the old and the bringing in of the new, and there will be regeneration. Yeah, there'll be regeneration after it, and we just have to be aware of it right now and just slow down and just pay attention to what's going on for us.
I'm so sharing that with my kids. When I smudge the house, they're screaming, "Stakes in here!" Blah, 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 right? It's like I'm like, it's herbs.
Yeah. It's good for you.
Yeah, I don't hear the end of it. It's honest to goodness, but it doesn't stop me any. But that's a great analogy.
Yeah, I thought so too. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense to me right now, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good way to look at things. So,
yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah. Okay. Well, Shane, let's catch up again.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When you have something new that you want to share with some courses or anything, get a hold of me and let's share it.
Are you on Facebook? Maybe we should, I haven't been doing a lot on my social media for the last several months, just because I'm just kind of done with it at the moment. But I feel like it's probably going to ramp up again, because I'm redoing my website and that sort of thing right now. It's under construction at the moment, but yeah, it's
I'm not
it's
really great
here.
at the social media either. I
Yeah,
gotten some help with it because I have a hard time keeping up with
right.
it
Well, it's a
all.
lot to do, and eventually I want somebody to manage it for me, but I'm just not there yet. So, but I'm just thinking in terms of being able to connect it more easily, um, as opposed to going through Podbooker, which is fine if you want to stay on that. But
No,
Messenger is good for me, or even
I'm
if you
on
want to exchange phone
Instagram,
numbers, you can do
Facebook,
that.
all of that. The naturalhealingreal.com
Yeah.
is my webpage. And
Okay.
yeah, I'm on all of those because I'm trying to, that apparently that's what you need to do to share this information. Is you need to be on these
Well, that's what they say. I
sites.
I don't want to believe that completely because I know that things will get shared as they need to. But yeah, it helps. Like it doesn't hurt to be there. But if you're gonna focus all, I mean, and you can focus all your time on it, or it can take all your time and feel like you are when you want to focus on other things. So like it can take over if you let it, which I've really tried not to do because it doesn't really serve me to do
Well,
that.
I'll,
So
I'll share with you what I have somebody, and they're called a doer from Australia, actually. It's
oh,
a
yeah.
women, yeah, it was a women's group, and she almost killed herself trying to do
Mm,
this, and then
yeah.
try to manage all of the media, the sites. And so anyways, I've just gotten started with getting some help there, and it's been
Yeah.
a real
Yeah.
gift to me because it's not my forte. It's just, I'm
Yeah,
not
mine too.
a girl.
It's not my favorite thing to do. It doesn't light me
No,
up, so
neither.
I just would rather somebody else do it. But
But
yeah,
it's that's apparently where, to share things, and that's where people are. And so
some
I've
people, yeah.
tried to get some kind of program so that I could share and meet with people, that because sometimes people, depending on how many viewers you have, will
Mhm.
take the time with you, right? Which
Right.
again, you know what,
Yeah.
that's all again falls right under what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, it was great to meet you.
You too.
Very grateful.
Not a problem.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, I'll send over that information, like my website and all that stuff, then through the app, and then we can connect
Oh,
on
that's
social
perfect.
after that if you want.
That's perfect. Thank you so
All
much.
right. You're
Okay,
welcome.
look forward
Thank
to
you.
seeing you again.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.